Hello and welcome again to the Truth Channel, where we discuss and bring out the truth of what is actually written in the Bible. It's a pleasure to come to you again today with another interesting discussion. Today I'll be discussing a topic that is very urgent for everyone to pay attention to, and that is a series of warning given by the true God himself and by his son Yahushua. And those warnings we will bring out as we go through this discussion. So the title of this topic or discussion is called "Do not be misled." Yes, do not be misled is a warning given by the true God, Yahuwah himself, to the people of Israel, to warn them against the people or invaders that will invade the land of Israel in order to mislead the chosen people of Israel away from their true God. So, do not be misled is the title, and let's start by examining these warnings. We're going to bring them in stages so that you can understand and pay attention to them. At the book of Isaiah, chapter 8, and I will read verse 11 and 12. There is written, "With his strong hand on me, this is what Yahuwah said to me to warn me away from following the course of this people. You should not call a conspiracy what these people call a conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear. So do not tremble at it." So God's warning to the people of Israel is that we should not follow the course of the other nations, of other people, of the invading nations that will come against Israel. God warned us, do not follow their course. Do not try to be like them. Do not follow their pattern. And do not call conspiracy what they call conspiracy. Yes, conspiracy means they can gather together and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Or this is how we are going to worship. Or we are going to bring up a kind of worship that will that will involve all people. Oh, God is dealing with everyone. That is conspiracy. So do not follow their conspiracy. God gave this warning to the people that he has chosen to serve as his priests and as his people, as his representatives. So it said, do not follow the course of these people, the invaders that will come into the land of Israel. For their intention is to do what? Mislead the people of Israel. So, and God's Son, when he came to inspect the nation, he gave us another similar warning. And this warning is also found at the book of Matthew, chapter 24. Book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 4. Matthew 24, verse 4. And there, and there we read, "In answer, Yahushua said to them, Look out that nobody mislead you." Verse 5, "For many will come on the basis of my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will mislead many." So Yahushua, the Son of God, gave the warning to the people of Israel. Said, look out that nobody mislead you, because many will invade Israel. Many will come in the name of God, and they will mislead many astray from their God, and they will give them a different God, and they will give the people of Israel a different Christ. They will mislead Israel away from what their God is doing with them. They start going to a different destination, because these people coming in will come in to mislead the people of Israel, the true chosen ones. Verse 11, it mentions that many false prophets will arise and will mislead many away. So these people that will come in the name of God, using another Christ, they will mislead many away from the truth of what is written. So the warning is, do not be misled. You should keep that in mind as you search for the truth, because many will come, but they will lead astray, if possible, the chosen ones of Israel. So why should you pay attention to this warning given by God and His Son? Well, the reason you should pay attention is this. Let's consider what is written at the book of Amos chapter 3. Amos chapter 3. Let's consider verse 1 and 2, or verse 1 to 3. So hear this word that Yahuwah has spoken concerning you, O people of Israel, concerning the whole family that I brought out of the land of Egypt. Say, you alone I have known out of all the families of the earth. And that is why I will call you to account for all your errors. So we'll two walk together unless they agree to meet. So this is the reason why you should not be misled, because God is saying, I have only known you, the people of Israel, out of all the families of the earth. You are the people that I am dealing with. You, the family that I brought out of Israel, out of Egypt, out of bondage in Egypt. You are the people that I have dealt with. You are the people that I have known. You are the people that I gave my law. You are the people that broke the covenant. And you are the people that are in punishment for breaking the covenant. So you are alone I have known. And in verse 3 it said, two cannot work together unless they are in agreement. So God is dealing with the people of Israel, His chosen people, according to the agreement that He has made with them when He brought them out of the land of Egypt to establish them as His people. So do not be misled by other people or invaders that will come against Israel to lead Israel away, to start serving other gods, or start serving a different Christ, or start going to another direction. So do not be misled. God is dealing with the people that He has known, and He is dealing with them according to the agreement that they have made or entered into from the very beginning when He brought them out and established them as a nation. So do not be misled by these other people that will come and try to say, let us enter into a conspiracy and then establish a way of worship that involves everybody, or find a different heaven, to a different destination to go. Do not be misled, is what the warning our God has given. So, since God is dealing with Israel according to the agreement that he has made with the people of Israel, so because the people of Israel broke the covenant that God gave to them, and what is the consequences of breaking that covenant or that agreement with the living God? The book of Romans chapter 6, verse 23. Romans chapter 6, verse 23. There it is explained, for the wages sin pays is death, but the gift God gives is everlasting life by Yahushua our Lord. So, because Israel broke the covenant, the consequence of sin, which is breaking of the laws and covenant of God, the consequence will result in death. Death for all the people of Israel for breaking the covenant or the agreement that they entered into with the living God. So, God is going to deal with the people of Israel according to the agreement that they have entered. And that agreement is that death will follow the people of Israel wherever they go, until all of them are what? Annihilated. Let's look at what is written, or what is stated when they enter the covenant. Deuteronomy chapter 28, and let's look at verse 48. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. And there is written, Yahuwah will send your enemies against you, and you will serve them while you are hungry and thirsty, and poorly clothed and lacking everything. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has annihilated you. So the consequence of breaking the covenant of God is that Israel will be annihilated. He said your enemies will put an iron rod on your neck until they have completely destroyed all of you. And even till today, that is still the goal of the enemy that have come against the people of the true people of Israel. Their goal is to completely annihilate the true people of Israel out of the surface of the earth. Our God's warning is this: do not be misled. For this enemy, when they come against you, will carry out what they have been designed to do, which is completely annihilate you. So do not be misled. So we have seen Israel broke the covenant, and the consequences of that is death will follow all the people, the true Israelites, the people that God is dealing with, the people that he brought out of the land of Egypt. So the question is this: who are the people of Israel, true people of Israel. Again, the same command applies. Do not be misled. Amos chapter 2, verse 4 to 6. Amos chapter 2. Amos chapter 2, verse 4 to 6. So do not be misled. Verse 4 to 6. This is what Yahuwah says. For 3 revolts of Judah and for 4, I will not reserve it, because they rejected the law of Yahuwah, and because they did not keep his regulations. But the same lies their forefathers followed have led them astray. So God is saying here, Israel, he has given Israel the chance. They did the first revolt, the second revolt, the third revolt, and the fourth revolt. He said, by the fourth revolt, he will not reserve bringing the full punishment for the errors of the people of Israel. And Israel did commit the fourth revolt. And therefore God did what? Brought the full punishment upon the people of Israel. So do not be misled, because whatever God says he will do, he will do. So Israel broke revolted for the 4th time, and therefore God carried his promise, which is to bring the full punishment for the errors of the people of Israel. And the full punishment is that God will bring punishment upon the people of Israel until they are completely what? Annihilated out of the surface of the ground. Pay attention as I read Isaiah chapter 65. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 6 and 7. So you can see other nations did not break the covenant of God, because the covenant was not given to them. The laws of God was not given to them. So they may come to you and say, oh, that is over, that is done. He said, do not be misled, because God is not really dealing with them, but God is dealing with the people of Israel, the people that he brought out of the land of Egypt and established as his people. They are the ones that God is dealing according to agreement. So even when they will tell, oh, everything is now okay, it's not okay, because the punishment is on the people that God brought out of the land of Egypt. That is the people he said he has only known of all the families of the earth. So Isaiah chapter 65 verse 6 and 7, here is written, say, look, it is written before me, I will not stand still, but I will repair them. I will repair them in full measure, for their errors and for the errors of their forefathers as well, says Yahuwah. because they have made sacrificial smoke on the mountains and have reproached me on the hills. I will first measure out their wages in full. So God said, I'm going to give to the people of Israel their wages in full because of what they have done, for breaking his covenant, for profaning his name. And the full measure of this punishment is that the wages of sin is death. This punishment will continue until all the wicked Israelites are completely what? Annihilated off the surface of the ground. So other nations, when they come to you and say, oh, all is done, God is a God of love, this and that, say, do not be misled, for God is not dealing with them. The people of Israel are the ones that God is dealing with. The punishment and the curse is upon them until they are completely annihilated. So no matter how they will try to give you another Christ or present another God to you to worship and to serve, say, do not be misled. The living God, the true God, is dealing with the people of Israel according to the agreement until they are completely, he has given them the full measure of their error. So, yes, even though God said he's going to give to the people of Israel the full punishment for their error, which is annihilation of all the people of Israel, but God also, because of his loyal love, will preserve a remnant out of Jacob. Consider what is written in chapter 65 of Isaiah, verse 8 to 10. This is what is written. So this is what Yahuwah says. Just as when a new wine is found in a cluster of grapes, and someone says, do not destroy it, for there is something good in it. So I will do for the sake of my servants. I will not destroy them all. I will bring out of Jacob an offspring, and out of Judah the one to inherit my mountains. Say, my chosen ones will take possession of it, and my servant will reside there. Say, Sharon will become a pasture for sheep, and the valley of Anchor a resting place for cattle, for my people who search for me. So even though God says he's going to give Israel the full punishment for their error, because of his loyal love and promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he said he will not completely destroy all the people of Israel, but he will take out of them the remnant that will do what? Inherit his mountain, the kingdom territory that he promised to Abraham. But for the rest of the people, they will be what? They will be destroyed. But God said he would choose a few remnant out of Jacob to spare from this destruction. So again, God is dealing with the people of Israel according to what has been agreed upon. So don't let the nations, other people of the nations, deceive you into serving a different God. So okay, let's serve a different God. Maybe this calamity will not happen to you. That's a lie. Do not be misled. Or let's serve a different Christ, a different Messiah. And so you can forget about this judgment. That's a lie. So do not be misled, because God will carry out the decisions that he has said that he will carry out. Now, so do not be misled. Look at Isaiah chapter 10. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21 to 23. There is written, only a remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. For though your people, O Israel, are as the grain of the sand of the sea, only a remnant will return. An extermination has been decided on, and justice will engulf them. Yes, the extermination decided on by the sovereign Lord, Yahuwah of armies, will be carried out in the entire land. So, did you pay attention to that? Say, even though the people of Israel keep multiplying as the sand of the sea, so many, say, only a few remnants will return to the mighty God for what they have done and for what their ancestors have done. Only a remnant will be preserved. The rest of the people of Israel, an extermination has been decided that we follow them in all the entire land, and this extermination will be carried out in the entire land at the appointed time. So do not be misled by other people of the other nations to make you think, okay, or give you a different God, or give you a different Messiah to follow, or to give you a different hope. The decision of the mighty God, Yahuwah of armies, will be carried out in all the entire land at the appointed time. Now, how and when did this punish will begin? When will this punish start? Consider Amos, the book of Amos, chapter 9. For the sovereign Lord does not do anything without first revealing it to his prophets of Israel. And God has revealed when this punishment on the people of Israel for all their errors and revolts will start. Amos chapter 9, verse 1 to 4. This is what is written. Say, I saw Yahuwah stationed above the altar, and he said, strike the head of the pillar, and the threshold will shake. Say, cut them off at the head, and I will kill the last one of them with a sword. No one who flees will get away, and no one trying to escape will succeed. If they dig down into the grave, from there my hand will take them. If they go up to the heavens, from there I will bring them down. And if they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, from there I will search them out and take them. If they conceal themselves from my eyes on the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent to bite them. If they go into captivity before their enemies, from there I will command the sword, and it will kill them. I will fix my eyes on them for bad and not for good. So God said that this punishment on the people of Israel will start after the head of the pillars of the chief cornerstone has been put to death. After the chief cornerstone has been put to death, he said he will cut off the head, that is the leaders of Israel, and he will kill the last of the people of Israel, okay, with a sword. So no one will flee. Fleeing will get away. It doesn't matter where you run to. If you like run to the uttermost part of the earth, if you like hide in the desert, if you like hide in the mountains, if you like dig a bunker underground and hide yourself, he said from there he will bring you out and this punishment will be carried out. And the punishment is what? Extermination of all the people of Israel. So even when you hide under the water or you went in the outer space, so from there God said he will bring you and this punishment will be carried out. No one fleeing will escape. So this is a serious matter. Do not be misled by the other nations into thinking, okay, so we can now avoid this calamity by trying to worship the gods of the nations, or to follow the gods of other people, other nations, or to serve a different Messiah. So do not be misled, because this calamity will be carried out at the appointed time. Now, we have seen that the final judgment will be extermination for all the people of Israel. So the question is, when will this final judgment will be carried out? When will it be carried out? The final judgment of extermination of all the people of Israel. Pay attention as I read the book of Hosea, chapter 2. Hosea chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Say, come and let us return to Yahuwah, for he has torn us to pieces, but he will heal us. He struck us, but he will bind our wounds. He will revive us after 2 days. On the 3rd day, he will raise us up, and we will live before him. So, this final punishment will be carried within the 2 days punishment time given to the people of Israel. God said he will do what? Struck or punish the people of Israel for their error for 2 days, and then revive them after on the 3rd day. So how long is this 2 days? 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. Peter reminded us, he said, however, do not let this escape your notice, beloved ones, that a day is with Yahuwah as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. So again, do not be misled by the nations into thinking that God has forgotten about these decisions that he has made. God has an appointed time when he will carry out this judgment that he has decided on. So even when the nations try to make you think that God has forgotten about the past, or God has forgotten, or we don't know who the people of Israel are, or has given you a different people different people that are called Israel now, the judgment of God is still ongoing, is still there. Just that the hand of clock is moving to midnight, to Yahuwah's day, the day he will carry out the extermination that has been decided on. So do not be misled by the nations or by the people, by the invaders that will come with a different God and lead Israel astray to serve a different gods. So, for 2,000 years, the people of Israel will be punished, and within these 2,000 years, towards the end, God will carry out the final extermination that has been decided on for the people of Israel. And during this final part, God will do what? Select those that he will call back to himself, those that he will preserve out of the people of Israel in order to inherit his mountain, while the rest of the people of Israel not chosen will be what? Exterminated. According to the judgment, the decision has been made. So, the punishment on the people of Israel started at around AD 33 when the Messiah was put to death. You add 2,000 years to that, you will get you around the year 2033. That will be when the final, the punishment will end. But within this span of 2,000 years, the decision of God will be carried out, which is extermination for all the sinners of Israel. Only the chosen ones of Israel will return back to the mighty God. And those are the ones that the Messiah will lead. Those are the ones that the Messiah will return, Yahushua will return from heaven to gather back to the land, to the kingdom prepared for them. As for the rest of the people of Israel, the judgment is that they will be all put to death or exterminated, for the wages of sin is death. So do not be misled, is the warning given to all the people of Israel. So the day of Yahuwah is coming. It's still ahead. But let's see what will happen on the day of Yahuwah. The book of Zephaniah chapter 8, chapter 1. The book of Zephaniah chapter 1, and consider verse 8 and 9. There is written, on the day of Yahuwah's sacrifice, I will call to account the princes, the sons, and the sons of the kings, and all those wearing foreign clothing. I will call to account everyone who climbs onto the platform on that day, those who fill their master's house with violence and deception. So God said that his day is coming when he will carry out his judgment. And on that day, so it will be a day of sacrifice. A sacrifice in the sense that he will sacrifice the life of all the sinners. He will put them all to death. He will sacrifice the sinners in order to save the righteous, the chosen ones out of Israel. The rest, sinners and wicked ones of Israel, will be put to death. So this day of sacrifice is still coming, and it will come by the time the 2,000 years is covered. This sacrifice will be carried out. It is the decision of Yahuwah, the living God. So it is coming, and he said he's going to call to account the sons of the kings and all those wearing foreign clothing. Yes, those who have forgotten about who they are, and now they have taken identity or chosen taking the identity or customs of other nations, trying to hide who they really are, even denying that they are what? Israelites. So God said no one will hide from this calamity. Even when you change the leper cannot change his skin. Even when you put on foreign clothes and dress like other people of the other nations, act like them, speak like them, God knows who the people that he's dealing with. So he said he will carry out this judgment. Okay? And he will call to account all those who climb on the platform. That is your preachers and your religious leaders and teachers who fill their their master's house with violence and deception. Your preachers telling you lies that are giving you another Christ, misleading you, thinking, oh, it will not happen. Oh, you are not the people of Israel. They are deceiving you. Oh, this judgment will not be carried out. Oh, God loves everybody. We have to love one another. That will not stop the judgment of God from being carried out. So God said he will call to account all these ones preaching and teaching lies. Let's consider another thing. Verse 14 to 18 of Zephaniah chapter 1. Verse 14 to 18, it says, the great day of Yahuwah is near. It is near and is approaching very quickly. So the sound of the day of Yahuwah is bitter. So there a warrior cries out. The day is a day of fury. It's a day of distress and anguish. It's a day of storm and desolation. It's a day of darkness and gloom. A day of clouds and thick gloom. A day of the horns and of the battle's cry, against the fortified cities and against the high corner towers. Say, I will cause distress to mankind, and they will walk like blind men, because it is against Yahuwah they have sinned. Their blood will be poured out like dung, and their flesh like the dung. So, neither their silver nor their gold will be able to save them in the day of Yahuwah's fury. For by the power of the fire of his zeal, the whole earth will be consumed. Because he will make what? An extermination, indeed a terrible one, in all the inhabitants of the earth. So this day of final judgment, the day of Yahuwah is coming. So it's the day of distress, a day of fury, a day of alarms. So it is near. We are almost close to this day, because the 2,000 years is almost up, and that day is fast approaching. God said, I will cause distress upon mankind, not only for the Israelites, but upon mankind, because of the sin of Israel, rebelling against their God. God said that the whole earth will be consumed. The whole earth will be treaded down, and God is going to start afresh, as he was in the days of Noah. So by the fire of his zeal, the whole earth will be consumed. So this day, great day of God's judgment, is fast approaching. Do not be misled. Do not let mankind mislead you into thinking, oh, everything will continue to go on. We are going to continue to manage to find solutions. Maybe go to the moon, go to the stars. The great day of Yahuwah is coming, and the time is almost here. So do not be misled. Pay attention to Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 9, verse 10. And there is written, "They will die by the sword, all the sinners of my people." Those who are saying the calamity will not come near us or reach us. So God has already made the decision that the sinners of his people will all be put to death. Even the presumptuous ones, those who are thinking, oh, he will not carry out what he said he will do. It will not get to me. He said, they will all die by the sword. That is the decision that God has made. Again, I'm going to take you back again to Isaiah chapter 10, verse 23. And there is written, yes, the extermination decided on by the sovereign Lord Yahuwah of armies will be carried out in the entire land. So God have already said that he will carry out this decision, and it will be carried out in the entire land. Okay? It will be carried out in the entire land. This decision to exterminate all the sinners of his people. But you can see now that extermination will also involve all the inhabitants of the earth. So do not be misled, because God knows who his people are. Do not let them mislead you. God knows who his people are. Some may come and tell you, oh, the people of ancient Israel, they are all gone. Nobody knows who they are. God knows who they are. He hasn't carried out his decision yet. What God did is that he scattered his people among the nations. And you can identify who the people of Israel are today. Turn to the book of Amos chapter 9, and let's read verse 10. Amos chapter 9, verse 7 and 8. There is written, are you not like the sons of the Cushites to me, O people of Israel, declares Yahuwah? Did I not bring Israel out of the land of Egypt, the Philistines out of Crete, and Syria out of Kir? So look, the eyes of the sovereign Lord Yahuwah are on the sinful kingdom, and he will annihilate it from the surface of the land. But I will not completely annihilate the house of Jacob, declares Yahuwah. So God said, you, the people of Israel, the people that I'm dealing with, I know who you are. You are like the sons of the Cushites. That is, you resemble the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians are not white. The Ethiopians are a dark-skinned nation. God said, I took you, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Egypt is a dark-skinned race. So God knows who his people are, the people that he is dealing with. So do not let the people of the nations deceive you into thinking, oh, the people of Israel, ancient Israel, they are forgotten. They are no longer. We can now serve a different God in unity. We can now unite and love one another and forget about all these things and just work for the unity of mankind and all that. God said he will do what? Annihilate the sinners of his people. Amos chapter 3, again, Amos chapter 3, 1-3, it said that God said he is dealing with the people that he brought out of Egypt. That he has only known them out of all the people of the earth, families of the earth. And he is going to call them to account for their error. The two will not work together unless there is an agreement. And God is in agreement with the people of Israel. And he told them that if they break his covenant, the consequence is what? Death. So Israel broke the covenant, and therefore the death will pursue the people of Israel, starting from when the Messiah is put to death. These curses or calamity will follow the people of Israel until the time when God completely annihilates all the wicked sinners of Israel. But he will save a remnant of the people of Israel, because he will not destroy them all. But he will take out a remnant that will do what? Return and inherit his mountain, because of his loyal love to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So do not be misled. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. There it is written, Yahuwah will scatter you among all the nations, from the one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, and there you will have to serve gods of wood and of stone, which you and your forefathers have not known. So concerning the true people that God is dealing with, part of their punishment for the error of their error is that God will scatter them among the nations. During these 2,000 years of punishment on the people of Israel, God will scatter his people of Israel among the nations, because this calamity will pursue and will follow and will pursue them. They will become slaves to other nations. A lot of calamity will happen to them as a people. They will be brought into slavery by ships. And so many things that is written that will take place. So God knows the people that he's dealing with. God knows who his people are. And this calamity has continued to follow the people of Israel. So they will serve the gods of other nations among these nations where he will scatter them. Ask yourself, which people are serving the gods given to them by other nations? So do not be misled. Do not be misled. Which people went into slavery by ships? Which people have iron chains upon their neck to serve as slaves to other nations? rich people have all the curses following them. So do not be misled, and you better wake up. Now, do not be misled is another is also can be applied for the final judgment and calamity will be carried out at the appointed time. Even when the other nations and people, because they do not understand what is written in the scriptures, because it wasn't given to them, and you can only understand it with the help of God's Holy Spirit. And God promises His Holy Spirit to be poured out on the sons of the people of Israel. They are the ones that will understand what is written in the scripture. So even when the other nations try to mislead you, the people of Israel, by telling you, that this judgment will not be carried out, or to make you to forget about the judgment of your God, say, do not be misled, because this judgment is coming, and it will come on time, and it will be carried out. In fact, it's been going on, but it will come to its climax, which is the extermination point for all the people of Israel and the rest of the people of the nations. So God said, do not be misled, because He will carry out this punishment that He has said that He will carry out. Notice, follow along as I read the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 15. Chapter 3, verse 15. There it says, now we consider presumptuous people happy. Also, those who practice wickedness are successful. They dare to put God to the test and get away with it. So those who seem to be presumptuous, who think, don't listen to him, this calamity will not happen, just live your life, think positive, or be the best you can be. They think they are acting presumptuously, say, I will live my life, nothing will happen. Or you are thinking negative. God said, yes, we consider these people, they seem to be successful, they seem to be carrying on in their way, in their pursuits, and they are rich, they don't think about their God. In fact, they are putting their God to test. That means they are saying, you do what you want to do. Let me see if you can do this. I don't care about you. They are putting God to the test. Because they don't care about what He has said. But they keep carrying on in their wicked ways, abandoning their God, His laws, and to do as they please. So these ones are putting God to the test. In other words, they're saying, do what you can do, what you want, what you will do. What will you do? So, though they seem to be successful, though they seem to succeed in what they are doing, but they do not know that God has an appointed time. Even though He is quiet, even though He kept silent all this while, He is allowing for the 2,000 years punishment to come to its fruition, to the point when He is going to take action, when their cup runs over. So do not be misled. into joining these presumptuous ones who continue in their wicked ways, thinking that God will never do a thing, thinking that God does not exist, thinking that he will not do anything. Say, do not be misled. Yes, they think so because they are blind, ignorant of what God is doing. They are blind, forgotten, because they do not know that God allowed time for the people of Israel to repent. But once that time completes, the extermination determined will be carried out in all the land. So, do not be misled. Consider Malachi chapter 4, verse 1. It's written, "For look, the day is coming, burning like a furnace, when all the presumptuous ones and all those practicing wickedness will become like stubble. The coming day will certainly devour them, says Jehovah of armies, and it will leave them neither root nor branch." So God has foretold that there's a day coming that will burn like the furnace, and all these presumptuous ones and all those practicing wickedness will become like a stubble. If they become a stubble and the day coming is burning like a fire, what will happen to them? They will all be consumed with fire. So do not be misled. God said that the day that is coming will leave the presumptuous ones with no root and no branch to continue with their wickedness. That means they will be completely what? Exterminated of the earth. So do not be misled into carrying on or joining with the wicked in carrying on with their wicked ways, thinking there is no God, there is no consequences for error, thinking that they will continue with their wickedness, they and their offsprings. It will not continue like that. God will put an end to wickedness, but he has an appointed time, a day of judgment that is coming, and is very near. As soon as this 2,000 years of punishment completes with the people of Israel, within this period, he will carry out this judgment, and then he will start afresh with the chosen ones. So, do not be misled. It can also be applied to the warning given by Yahushua, the Messiah and leader of the people of Israel. He said we should not be misled by many who will come in his name, who will say that they are the Christ or they represent God. So these ones are but ravenous wolves. They are coming in order to mislead the people of Israel, to mislead them to follow along and to go with them and to carry out all their wicked conspiracy. So do not be misled by these ones. For even though they come as sheep, but they are sheep, they are wolves in sheep's clothing. Their intention is to mislead many of the sheep of Israel to their slaughter. Do not be misled. Let's consider the book of Matthew, where it's written. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15. It's written, be on the watch for false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inside are ravenous wolves. So by their fruits you will recognize them. Never do people gather grapes from thorns or figs from thistles, do they? So likewise every good tree produces fine fruits, but every rotten tree produces worthless fruits. A good tree cannot bear worthless fruits, nor can a rotten tree produce fine fruits. Every tree not producing fine fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So really then by their fruits you will recognize these men. So do not be misled by the false prophets that will come to you in sheep's clothing, but inside of them they are ravenous wolves. So this is a warning to the people of Israel, the people that God is dealing with. Do not follow all these other nations and peoples that will come in the name of God, teaching you that God sent them, that they represent the Christ, that they know God. So they are nothing but ravenous wolves, leading the sheep to their slaughter, waiting for the appointed time to kill off the sheep. So do not be misled by them is the warning given by Yahushua, your leader. The question then is, who are these false prophets? Well, it says, by their fruits you will identify a tree. By what is written, you can tell who the people of Israel is, the ones that God said he will put his spirit upon to represent him, the ones that he gave the law to keep and to teach others. By their fruits, what is written about them, you can identify these men. So you can identify the ones that came in the name of being a sheep, but they are really wolves. They are to destroy and to feed on the sheep of Israel. So your pope, your bishops, your elders, your imams, all these are ravenous wolves. Do not be misled, because when they do not speak according to what is written, they have no light. In fact, notice what is, as I read it from the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 8 verse 20 says this: instead they should inquire of the law and of the written confirmation. So when they do not speak according to this word, they have no light. So when people come to you and they do not speak according to what is written, they have no light. You should not listen to them. Do not be misled. Examine everyone telling you God said this, God said that, or telling you they represent the Christ. If they do not understand what is written, if they do not speak according to what is written, if they are hiding the real truth from you, they are ravenous wolves. If they are hiding who the people of Israel are, if they have hidden the destination where the chosen people of Israel will end up, and what is coming concerning the people of the earth. If they are hiding it, that means they have no light of what is written. For the scripture said the scriptures was not given to the nations. They know nothing about the judgments of our God. So wake up and do not be misled is the warning given by our God. And the same warning was given by our leader and King Yahushua to warn us from following the peoples of the nations so that we are not misled to our slaughter. So for you who are listening of the people of other nations, you can be part of what God is doing when you identify the people of God, the true Israelites. And then you identify the ones, the chosen ones that God is calling or gathering together for his kingdom. And you are willing to go with these ones. Then you can obtain salvation at the appointed time. And for you, the people of Israel, when you identify who you are and you return to seek your God and to ask for his mercy and to ask that he spare your life and consider you among those that will serve him in his holy mountain, then you are showing that you are not being misled by the nations. So again, I thank you for paying attention up to this point. If you have listened, if you have enjoyed this presentation, click the like button, subscribe to this channel, share this message with your friends and relatives, for many have been misled for a long time. But it's time for people to wake up and stop being misled. Thank you.